Okay, now we're going to attach the casing. That will be the tunnel that we put the cording through to hold onto your apron. So when you attach the bias tape to make the casing, you need to put the right side of the apron up, not the wrong side. That's the mistake a lot of people do. So make sure that the right side is facing up. And when you come to the edge of your apron, please extend the bias tape 2 centimeters beyond the edge of the top of the apron. So put a 2 centimeter allowance, and then you're going to match, open the bias tape so that the fold is all the way to the edge, and have it extend 2 centimeters above. And then you're going to start pinning the bias tape onto the top of the apron. And as you pin, go through, and you want to make sure that it's open all of the way as you pin it on the first time. As you're pinning, please notice very carefully right here. If you pin exactly at the edge of the fabric and they match together, that's great. If you can see a little bit of the fabric there, you notice I can see the apron fabric, that's still okay. What is absolutely not okay is if this goes over the edge like this. That will give you problems. So make sure that your bias tape and the edge of the fabric match as closely as possible. Please put your pins about 3 to 4 centimeters apart, and again, making sure that you open the double fold bias tape open as you pin it on. You're going to be stitching a straight edge to a curved edge, so you'll have to ease it a little bit as you turn, but you're going to just keep on going and pin it. And when you get back here, as you've got a couple pins in, come back and take this 2 centimeter piece and fold it back to match the top of the top hem right there, and crease it, and then take your pin and put it, folding that down through that crease there. So it won't be folded evenly, but it will be folded so that it matches the top edge. Then continue pinning, and sometimes you need to turn it a little bit, but make sure that your fabric is matching, and go ahead and pin this through. And when you come close to the other end, you're going to remember that you also need to have another 2 centimeter allowance at the end. Okay, and once you come to this end, I'm going to just actually show you with a seam gauge ruler that I'm leaving 2 centimeters, and I'm going to come and then I'm going to cut the bias tape 2 centimeters past the end. And just cut it with your scissors from your toolbox. That will work fine. And then let's put one more pin in the middle. And then right here, when you come to this side edge, you want to take and fold the edge of the bias tape back so that it matches right along the side hem of the apron. And then you're going to pin that down as well. You'll do that on both sides, and then you'll go to the sewing machine. Ready to sew, you want to make sure to go in the direction that allows you to have the apron hanging off the left side of the machine. If I started here, the apron would have to go through the middle space. So let's just make sure that we start at the bottom edge on this side. And this crease where the fold is on the bias tape is your guiding line for sewing. Where it's folded over at the back at that 2 centimeter place, it's a little hard to see, but you're going to look where this crease is and aim to have that fit where the center of the needle will hit. So I'm going to keep this back here and put my needle down. And then I'm going to back stitch on both ends and sew along the curved edge. Okay, stop before you get to pins. And then continue sewing, aiming to be right in the center of that crease. Okay, it's going to gradually start turning now, so just kind of help your apron fabric. If you push your apron back on the table, it will help you stay right in the middle of that crease. And again, I'm turning the apron to help it go in smoothly. And you want to make sure that where this folded part at the end is, don't let it get caught back like that. You want to make sure that it goes under the presser foot, so I'm kind of holding it with my finger there as I sew. And I'm going to stitch all the way to the end of the apron and then back stitch for 5 stitches. And then go forward and sew off the edge of the apron. And that's the first step in making the casing. And you'll do the same kind of stitching on the other side. Trim your threads at the end and come back to the beginning. And trim your loose threads. Okay, so now we're going to do that on the other side. Then we need to take it to the iron and press it to the wrong side to be prepared to do the next step of finishing the casing. So once you have the bias tape attached with your first seam, turn your apron over to the wrong side of your fabric, and we're going to fold that edge, the bias tape, out so that it hangs off the edge, and then we're going to turn it completely to the inside. And when you fold it to the inside, you want to make sure that all of the bias tape shows only on the back side of your fabric. You don't want it so that it's like this, where you'll be able to see bias tape from the front. You need to roll it completely inside. And if you can see a little bit of your apron fabric from the back side, that's a good thing when you're putting this on. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do, and you also want to leave this top edge, the fold, closed so that it gives you a finished edge as you press it down. So we're actually going to start at this edge down here. Sorry about that. And we're going to press it. Let's make sure this is down to the inside. And you'll notice that this little 2 centimeter tail that was hanging off sticks out a little bit. And we're going to fix that in a minute. But the first thing that you're going to do is take your iron and just press, holding it for about 10 seconds as you go, and giving it a nice crease to bring that bias tape casing to the inside. And then just keep moving it down. Okay, and then come back to the beginning, and where this part sticks over, I want you to just open it and bend it backwards so that it doesn't show, and fold it down and press it there. So press it one more time so that it doesn't show, and that will give you a nice finish that meets standard. And then you'll need to do that on the other end as well. You see this little triangle sticking out, so just bend it underneath so that it doesn't show from the front, and press it down. Then you need to take and pin the casing down. So we're going to put pins again about every 3 to 4 centimeters apart. I'm going to tuck that in, and we're just going to take the pin and go through the bias tape and through the apron hem and come back up like that. And then about every 3 centimeters, put another pin, holding it down, and pin very close to this inside edge, because that's the side that you're going to be sewing on. I like to guess what 1/8 of an inch from the edge looks like, so then where I poke my pin in will guide me to show me where I should be sewing. And do that all the way across. I'm guessing about 1/8 of an inch is about 2 to 3 millimeters. And then put your pins like this all the way along the inside edge. Once you have pinned this side, then you need to press the other side as well so that you have both sides ready to do the final stitching. And this is the last thing that you have to do on the sewing part of your apron. So you're almost finished. Okay, turn it around and do the pressing on the other side. Okay, so let's go stitch that down. Okay, if you look carefully at your plastic presser foot, the inside edge of this plastic prong on the left is going to be our guide for stitching along the inside edge of the bias tape. If you do that, from there to the center of the needle is 1/8 of an inch, and that will give you the perfect amount for your seam allowance on this. So if you just notice very carefully that the edge of the bias tape matches the inside edge of this left side prong, then you'll do it right. So let's put the needle down and then go ahead and start sewing. So I'm going to go forward, and I'm just always feeding. Let's back stitch first. And I'm keeping this edge right here, right next to the prong on the presser foot. Okay, so pay close attention to that and you won't have any problem. And again, it helps you to move your apron as you're sewing on a curve, to gradually curve it around the table, and that will help you keep your sewing line on the curve and help you ease it in nicely. And you want to come all the way to the end, and then be sure to secure it securely with a good back stitch, and then back off so that the cording doesn't cause the casing to rip out. Push the needle up and trim. Don't forget to trim both at the top and on the side, and then stitch the other side in exactly the same way. And that is how you complete the casing on your apron project. And so when you're done, making sure that there are no threads that need to be trimmed off, you can look from the front that it has a nice smooth curved line, and on the back side that your stitching is very close to the edge. It's not as straight there as it could be, that it needs to be wide enough for the cording to fit through. So now you're ready to put the cording in.